Well, this one's going to piss a lot of people off here, so I'm going to go over the truth about obesity, weight loss, and what your true options are if you would like to lose weight, because everybody out here is lying to you, and I'm pretty much the only person who's going to tell you the truth about this. Alright, so from a beginner's standpoint, there's nothing more to obesity other than it being a trace mineral deficiency. These trace minerals are things like thallium, thorium, gallium. There's all kinds of stuff in there. Zirconium, gold, lead, silver, neodymium, all kinds of stuff like that. Stuff you can't get from your food. You have to supplement it. If you don't take it, you're going to run into health problems. There's just no other way you can do about it. But the problem where you run into this with exercise is that exercise exacerbates trace mineral deficiencies because it causes you to sweat, and sweating is how you lose your trace minerals. If you lose your trace minerals and you don't get them back from some way, like taking a trace mineral source, like say from a source of algae maybe, or seaweed or something like that, it doesn't really matter what it is. I'm pretty sure I have to up on algae there, but yeah, you're never going to be able to out-exercise a trace mineral deficiency because, like I just said, you lose your trace minerals every time you sweat, and almost pretty much nobody is replacing their trace minerals. I think I'm the only person I know besides maybe like 10 other people that actually replace their own trace minerals that they lose on a day-to-day basis that they don't know they're losing that are causing health problems in their lives. So basically, hunger in general is nothing more than a signal to your body that you need micronutrients and just nutrients in general, B vitamins, vitamin C, every major and minor mineral, calcium, boron, copper, zinc, magnesium, all those things. Hunger is nothing more than a signal that you need nutrition. So when you're hungry and you input some empty food, doesn't really matter what it is because all food is deficient in all nutrients. You can't rely on food anymore to get nutrition that will actually sustain your life. Our food system is devoid of nutrition on purpose. So to be able to actually get these trace minerals, you can't rely on food from doing so. So, and because of that, hunger is never going to satisfy your food is never going to satisfy your hunger. You're never going to have your hunger relieved by the food that you eat unless you are taking a large amount of trace minerals daily and a large B vitamin complex that gives you huge amounts of every B vitamin, and then all the other known nutrients to man, which are everything from selenium to copper to boron to I'll give you the list at the end. So pretty much, if you don't, it doesn't matter what you're doing, even if your job is something where you sweat, and say like your whatever it is, most people sweat at their jobs. Even if you're just active, just standing here, literally just standing here is your body's using up mineral, vitamin, amino acid, and essential fatty acid stores just for your brain to be processing, all sorts of stuff like that. And if you're not keeping up on this from a day-to-day basis, you're never going to be healthy from any acceptable standpoint. You can claim to be healthy, but if you're still getting sick on a regular basis, which pretty much all of you are, we just went through this entire COVID nonsense. So don't tell me that getting sick is not something that you worry about, because you do. You worry about it so much that you put arbitrary rules in place that change by the day. It's unbelievable how much you people worry about health, and then you can sit here and ridicule someone for actually providing you answers to some of this stuff. Okay, so there's literally endless chemical reactions in the body that depend on these trace minerals being present in your body. And if exercise is the thing that causes you to sweat, and sweat is how you lose these trace mineral stores, there's no possible way that this thing can be good for you unless you are, what's this revolutionary idea here? Replacing your trace minerals on a daily basis that are supposed to be present in our food, ideally. But we don't live in an ideal world. We all know that. We live in a world where there's massive scares over COVID nonsense, and people freak out and do all kinds of crazy things. So we clearly do not live in an ideal world. Which is the reason you got to take the 90 essential nutrients every single day. If you're not doing this from starting point of you waking up to pretty much when you go to bed, you're going to be falling behind in regards to health. And as I've stated already, exercise is viciously exacerbating this cycle, because not only does exercise, it destroys the body's nutrient supplies in a variety of ways, most of them relating to the exoskeletal system. Your entire bone matrix system is made up of various nutrients that you need to feed your body to be able to regrow them. There's a variety of compounds and salt compounds that are like glucosamine, sulfates, all sorts of stuff like that. Chondroiton sulfate, glucosamine. There's all kinds of them. I'm blanking on the top of my head here. Not a good look, but don't matter. All right, so getting back into the concept of hunger here, the only known link there is to longevity is caloric restriction. So that means that if you as a person are not practicing caloric restriction, even when you're exercising, you're never going to achieve longevity. You're never going to live a long life. There's only one single link. You can easily look this up. We only have one proven scientific link to longevity and what can aid in longevity, and that is caloric restriction. You can expand on, or you can put a lot into the idea of caloric restriction and what you should go along with it, but I'm going to go into that in a different video. Okay, so if the only link to longer health is caloric restriction, then how on earth could you possibly believe that an activity like exercise, which makes you ravenously hungry in almost all cases, except for people like me who are taking in nutrients to ensure that we don't feel this ravenous hunger. So if exercise has primarily been known to be associated with eating large amounts of protein and other things like that, it's utterly absurd to make this claim that it could lead to longevity or better health in the human species. It certainly can, and it does for certain people, but almost none of the people who practice the discipline of exercise are doing any of these other things, like practicing caloric restriction alongside of it, which would actually allow for you to achieve longevity and to allow the body to age more gracefully. Pretty much everything I've said about the trace mineral deficiencies being caused by the sweating that you do, like all of that is also what causes your skin to age. All the copper that you leach out of your body when you're sweating, that's what causes these wrinkles to form all over your body. Everybody's always worried about them. Don't tell me you're not. Botox is a huge industry. Most of the people I know are even, if they haven't done it, they're into the concept of getting things like preventive Botox, when in reality, anybody at any age whatsoever could easily prevent things like your skin drooping and sagging. And it's simply by taking the nutrients that your body needs to have healthy connective tissues. Pretty much everything associated with exercise is going to cause things in your body that are going to reduce your body's ability to have functional connective tissues and be able to repair and maintain your connective tissues. Alright, so pretty much in getting into this universal idea that you must take in large amounts of calories to grow your muscles and you gotta eat to grow. I've heard so many different stupid catchphrases that people have for their copious eating habits that are caused by their exercise, because they have this absurd belief that you must take in excess nutrients, or not even nutrients. That was misspoke. Excess calories, pretty much empty calories on top of this. So the vast majority of the exercise community is under this spell that you must take in what is essentially excess empty calories into your body, and this is going to somehow aid your body in being healthier and happier, when in reality all it's really doing is working harder to deal with these excess calories that you're putting into your body. Part of the reason that caloric intake or caloric restriction is so important for longevity is the fact that your body is taking huge amounts of energy to digest your food. So if you've gotten into this idea that you need to be this bodybuilder guy that's like, 6 meals of protein 6 times a day and whatnot, and it's got to be like every 3 hours, and you got to hit your protein window. If you're falling for literally any of that nonsense whatsoever, It's completely antithetical to all we know about science from every possible standpoint. Even if you want to get into this idea of this caveman in the past, where we supposedly used to hunt down our food and we would always do it on an empty stomach, because why the hell else would you be hunting the food down if you have a full stomach? You wouldn't be doing it if your stomach was full. So pretty much, if you do buy into that idea of the caveman, pretty much all of our ancestors operated from a state of hunger that needed to be satisfied by absolutely anything whatsoever. There was never, ever a period in history, according to the so-called mainstream accepted history, in which there's not been humans functioning optimally on a caloric restricted diet. This is pretty much the first time in history where we have a world where you can have excess calories that are completely void of nutrition. And pretty much everybody's eating upon those foods, no matter if they're into the bodybuilding community or into the exercise community of any kind whatsoever. There's almost nobody that is eating food that could actually satiate your nutrient needs. And until that happens, you're simply barking up a tree, and you're not going to get up it. That was a stupid little catchphrase there, but I guess I'll go with it. So this general idea that the average bodybuilding or any exercise professional whatsoever will tell you that you got to eat 35 to 4,500 calories a day to build muscle and all that nonsense, when in reality the body is best functioning below 2,500 calories for most people. And unless you're extremely large, you probably aren't ever going to top over 3,000 calories being what your daily optimal intake should be at. So pretty much the entire fitness industry is built on this nonsensical topic that you're going to somehow reverse entropy and achieve longevity through excess intake of calories. The body needs plenty of rest to be able to live a long life. And if you don't give it a rest through the digestive resting, known as fasting, well, you're not going to live a long life. And if you want to look up the science behind this, go ahead and do it. A lot of the articles are behind a paywall. I used to look up Scientific American, the caloric restriction in aging. There's all sorts of information you can look up on this topic. The bottom line is, if you don't practice caloric restriction, you're a fool. And then on top of that, if you don't practice caloric restriction with huge intakes of vitamins, minerals, amino acids, essential fatty acids, antioxidants through the measurement known as ORAC, or oxidative radical absorption capacity, so the damage that you do to your body is taken out of you, or is taken down to a much lesser degree through the adoption of antioxidants into the diet. So essentially the optimal diet is one that is calorically restricted, but also somehow manages to pack in all the nutrients that I just named. So if you do both of those things in combination, you're going to achieve longevity just through that alone. There is no exercise whatsoever that factors into the equation that is known as longevity and optimal health. Exercise, well, I won't say that because I'll get into this a little bit later. Exercise certainly does have its help for the brain and the function of the brain. And then, another thing on top of this is the fact that no exercise professional anywhere will tell you anything about how to maintain and repair your ligaments and joints that are so unbelievably vital to your exercise and fitness journey. You can't have an exercise and fitness journey if your things like your elbow ligaments and your knees and all these tendons and everything inside of you, if they're not able to function properly. And they're not going to be able to function properly if you're not feeding them things like glucosamine, Chrondroiton, sulfate, all kinds of stuff like that, gelatins. Everybody's into collagen peptides, all that sort of stuff. Well, just taking some collagen peptides alone is not enough. To actually have optimal use of collagen peptides in the body, you got to be able to have magnesium, zinc, copper, strontium, things like that alongside of that. And none of you are buying collagen peptide products that have these minerals in them that would even allow you to be able to absorb these things in the first place. And then you got to be able to even absorb nutrients through your intestinal capacities in the first place, which I'm going to get into this in a little bit here. But most of you can't do that. So like the fact that no exercise person ever is telling you to actually take these things seriously is the reason almost everybody ends up injured and ends up gaining weight through their exercises. It's almost futile watching, or it's almost a futile existence for almost every person that has a gym membership in the world to see them go there and actually expect to have something happen to their body when they're not feeding their body the things that it needs to make things happen. You can go at any gym anywhere and watch the people there and see how they change over time. They're pretty much, it's all a futile lost cause. I don't even want to be mean to say it. Like, you got to be doing the stuff I'm talking about here. Otherwise, you're not going to get anything from it. Okay, so I kind of went into a little bit of this already. This is gym diets. Okay, so no healthcare professional in America, nobody, no exercise guru, nobody but me and the people that I listen to and have learned from will tell you that your micronutrient intake is by far the most important thing to your health. A lot of people will get into the caloric restriction, but they won't get into the topping off of micronutrient intake on top of it. There are endless micronutrients that you can get. This is the one place where you can actually rely upon your food to get some of the micronutrients. There are all sorts of phytochemicals inside of things like tomatoes. Like tomatoes have lycopenes, all that sort of thing. You could go into that for every plant in the world. I'm not going to waste my time doing it here. But the micronutrients are incredibly important. And just like with a plant can't actually manufacture these micronutrients if it is absent these same minerals that you need to be able to be healthy in your life. The plant, like a tomato, will only produce the top of the line, top of the shelf. Everybody wants it, lycopenes, because if it's given a trace mineral rich soil to grow in, so that environment of trace mineral richness that it needs to thrive in and make the most of the lycopenes it can offer you, that's the exact same thing going on in your body with micronutrients. Your body is pretty much nothing more than a soil that you plant yourself, and you plant it through micronutrients. If you don't do this, if you don't focus almost entirely upon micronutrients, you essentially guarantee disease. That's how I open this up, speaking on micronutrient deficiencies causing all illnesses and all ills inside the human body. So, just like I said before, no exercise guru, no healthcare professional, nobody ever will tell you to take trace minerals or any micronutrients of any kind. And then on top of that, they won't even focus on other things that can cause damage of certain micronutrients, like certain amino acids that can be replaced by certain things. I'm going to go over it in a bit. Okay, so the fact that nobody is telling you to do this stuff, you shouldn't even be listening to them in the first place. If they're not going to tell you that you need micronutrients a lot more than you need your stupid macronutrients and your stupid protein count, like, don't fucking listen to that person. Just don't listen to them. If they want those big muscles, well, they're going to pay for it, and it's going to be paid for in death. So that's what's going to happen. It's happened to it's happened to millions of people. There's almost nobody. Fucking Bruce Lee died at 32. I'm already older than Bruce Lee was when he died. There's endless examples of that. Jim Fixx, the so-called, you guys are probably way too young to remember the goddamn power bar and the Jim Fixx craze. But yeah, that fucker died when he was like 49 while he was running. Why? You know why? Because he ran out of micronutrients because he didn't give a fuck about those. Okay, another thing that nobody talks about. Nobody will ever tell you, hey, you got to get your stomach acid correct before you worry about being healthy. If you don't have healthy stomach acid, you're never going to be able to be healthy because stomach acid is what you need to break down everything you put into your body into the smallest units that it can use. And most of you are putting pretty crappy stuff into your body in the first place that doesn't even have small units for the body to even break down in the first place, which is actually, ironically, also the cause of the fact that you can't break these things down. So this whole idea that you could derive health from somebody who's not telling you that you need to get your stomach acid in order and that you need to do corrective exercises for your stomach acid, like, say, go on a fast for maybe 28 hours and let your stomach acid basically fix itself, because that's what happens when your body goes on a fast. But in the case of stomach acid, you got to actually bring in outside sources to fix it. And stomach acid, there's betaine hydrochloride, pepsin. You got to take ox bile salts. There's all kinds of stuff like that. Digestive enzymes. Almost all of us need them because we don't have the ability to create our own enzymes anymore because of our crappy diets. There's all sorts of stuff like that going on. I could talk for hours about this. So if somebody's not telling you to fix your digestive enzyme health and all that sort of stuff, I wouldn't ever listen to them. If they don't have things to tell you and teach you about how to repair and maintain your digestive microbiome, like, why would you listen to that person? They don't care about your health. If they think that you could somehow exercise your way to a healthier microbiome, they're fool. And then if they somehow, and I know there's possibly people out there certainly is, that's where I learned this stuff from, that could teach you things like how to have a healthier microbiome while also being, a pro-exercise person. There certainly is those, but almost nobody's doing it. I kind of lost my focus there for a second. Okay, and then here's another stupid one. Almost everybody that's in the exercise community will just teach you, all they got to talk about is goddamn protein. Like, okay, first of all, you got to be able to break down protein with the strong stomach acid in the first place, which most of you can't do it. Like, if you're about to eat a nice, rich, fatty steak, which by no means is a bad thing. I eat fatty meat all the time. If you have this idea in your head that fatty meat is bad for you, which is another thing bodybuilding people get completely wrong. They have this weird fantasy and weird notion that somehow that fat in your meat is going to make you fat. It's not even remotely close to being true. I eat the fattiest meat possible. You have to be an utter fool to avoid fat in your meat content. Like, you want to jack that content up to like 40%. Like, the fattiest ribeye you could possibly get that. But then you got to make sure you don't mess the fat up by cooking. It's another thing that they don't ever go into. No health guru anywhere will tell you anything about how. Like, I could teach you how to ensure certain things are not made toxic by the cooking process. Nobody's ever talking about that. The fact that nobody's ever telling you anything like that, and they're trying to teach you about something that's going to maintain your health for the long term, well, just don't listen to them. It's a fool's errand. There's no way you're going to ever exercise your way to a healthier microbiome or anything like that. You're only going to break it down through time, especially how prone you are to falling for these things that make the microbiome weaker, because that's the vast majority of protocol for a lot of quote-unquote health gurus. They'll tell you things that will absolutely cause you to die from it. And they'll swear to their death that it's the right thing to do, and it's not. And you can pretty much figure out who that is by figuring out who's not talking about healthier stomach acid and healthier intestines and giving things to the body that will feed your microbiome to restore it to its natural state. Because what happens is, say you go to McDonald's and you eat those French fries washed down with a Coke and you eat your burger or whatever it is. I don't care what it is. It just does not matter what it is, but you're destroying your intestinal flora, and every time you do that, that's why you can't do it, because every time you do it, you put a reset into your body, and your body remembers it, and it causes that damage to reappear. So you got to just say no to all that stuff, and the only way you're ever going to be able to do that is by taking trace minerals, because trace minerals are what stops your body from having these insatiable cravings. All the cravings that you're asking for, they're all trace mineral deficiencies. They're just getting back into the protein thing, and protein and cholesterol is a 2-in-1 thing. Almost nobody anywhere is going to tell you anything except eat your protein. You ask them about protein sources or anything like that, no, just eat it. Just take the protein. They won't tell you anything about differences between the proteins. This is kind of changing in some ways in the bodybuilding community, with them focusing on specific amino acids found in meat sources that aren't nearly as potent as the same ones you find in vegetable sources that are claimed to be the same equal protein. So there's somewhat a little bit of stuff going on where they're catching up with this stuff now. And then, like, another one is cholesterol. If somebody's not telling you to take in cholesterol through your diet and have a focus of diet on getting good sources of cholesterol and making sure that your sources of cholesterol are not denatured by the cooking process, like, if somebody's not telling you about that stuff, well, they just don't know really all that much about health, because cholesterol intake is by far one of the most important things you can do for your health. Everybody everywhere is deficient in cholesterol. And that's a huge part of gym culture in general is, getting the lower fat content meat, which is invariably lowering cholesterol content in the meat, which is terrible for you. You're taking up so much of the body's resources to process this lean meat that's providing you almost nothing of substance. Part of the reason I'm so happy all the time is because I have cholesterol coming into my body every single day. Cholesterol maintains all of your hormonal profile, everything in regards to health is maintained by your cholesterol status. If you don't have adequate cholesterol intake, you're going to have all sorts of hormonal problems. It's endless, really. It really, truly is endless. There's 25 different diseases that are caused by cholesterol deficiency. And then another one they just never talk about. Nobody ever gives any words ever on digestive health in general, but the fact that your digestive health is responsible for the uptake of nutrients into the blood. Your small intestine that goes through your body all over, it's like miles and miles and miles long and whatnot. Well, every little bend and every little curve, it's like a little sieve that's just like, it's extracting all the nutrients of what you do actually put into your body. So like, for example, when you eat gluten goes through your intestinal or your small intestine and wipes out all your intestinal villi and makes it so that they can't uptake these nutrients back into the blood. So there's a ton of different ways you can damage your intestinal villi and your intestinal flora, all that sort of stuff. And then if you don't have the right bacterial mixes inside your intestinal flora, well, it's gonna lead to just various problems with the digestion of food. That's not gonna allow you to fully break it down. And if you can't even fully break it down, well, how can you uptake it in the blood in the first place? And that's even assuming that you have nutrient-rich food to begin with, which we all know nobody does. Well, we should know that anyway, but most people act like their food has nutrients in it. I never really understand that one. Like, the average person, a sandwich for lunch, some chips, whatever you want to call your diet, doesn't really matter what you call it. You're just putting a bunch of empty nonsense in there. And the fact that you people defend it as if there's some sort of viable nutrition in your food is just, it's mind-numbing to me, because the government is actually requiring the companies that sell your food to you to fortify your food so you don't have deformed offspring. Like, they have to put thiamine into your food so you don't have deformed offspring. They put riboflavin into your food so you don't have deformed offspring. Like, and you're sitting here trying to argue with me that you had this nice, healthy diet and whatnot. Like, it's a damn joke. I'm sorry to say it, but it's a damn joke. And the last thing I gotta say on the diet thing is, like, almost everybody out there is just hanging off a cliff, like, just hanging on for their dear life trying to maintain their diet. Maintaining a diet for me is about the easiest thing in the world, and that's because I have a healthy relationship with food. Like, everybody digs themselves into these stupid holes where they get these ideas about food that they can't be healthy. And yeah, I talk a lot about foods that you should never eat, and you really should never eat them. You really should listen to me on that. But there's so many foods out there that you can eat that people dig themselves into hole. Like, you could eat a gluten-free cheeseburger 6 times a day, and as long as the bread you put the cheeseburger on is gluten-free and the cheeseburger is medium rare, like, you're gonna be incredibly happy. You're never gonna gain weight. Like, there's a lot of ways to make sure that you can eat really hearty foods that you enjoy. You just gotta make a couple of substitution on the ingredients. There is some sacrifice here to be paid. Like, you can't be going out with your friends fucking drinking out of the fishbowl and shit like that. And you can't be saying fried food is okay this one night, because you know how you are. If you give up complacency on one effort, you're going to give it up on the rest of them. Alright, and then this is the third part here. So, just in general, exercise doesn't exactly have to be complicated. If really all you're trying to do is lose some weight, like, I don't really care who I would work with, but the first thing I'm going to tell you to start doing is probably walking an hour a day, especially because I wouldn't bother working with people who have these stupid goals of, like, gaining muscle and whatnot. I don't really want to deal with those people. I'd rather deal with some housewife that maybe packed on 30 pounds after she had kids, because the kids robbed her of all of her mineral stores in her body, so she has nothing there and she doesn't know why she gained this weight. Well, I'll tell her, get on this little program here where you take these trace minerals, start walking an hour a day, and bam, you're going to look better than you did before you got pregnant. Guarantee that. Guarantee it. But I'll tell that to anybody. It doesn't matter. An old grandma, if you want to find me an old grandma, I could put any old grandma on a perfectly healthy exercise program that would suit her needs to a T. And those are the people that I would want to deal with. I don't really care about these stupid people that have these weird hero notions in their heads about having to do these brutal Iron Man exercises and whatnot. Like, I go pretty hard myself, I won't lie to you. I go probably harder than just about anybody, and anybody who goes to my gym will tell you that. They'll testify that with their hand on the Bible. They'll probably tell you with their hand on the Bible that I'm one of the hardest working people they've ever seen. But for the average person, you don't really have to do much besides walk. Maybe grab a jump rope, low impact, stuff like that. You're getting the same. Okay, and here's another thing. There is good impact, or there is obviously and clearly incredibly amazing things that happen in the body when you exercise. So I'm not going to sit here and deny it. It's part of the reason I love it. Releases endorphins and all that. Everybody loves releasing endorphins. Everybody loves getting a dopamine reward from an actual effort that involves something like physical motion. So things like that, they're incredibly satisfying when you exercise. So it's extremely important for you to exercise for the health of your brain, but to release all these things that make your brain...
Take a salt tablet. Take a salt tablet. Take a salt tablet.
All right, so to actually release these endorphins and whatnot, it doesn't exactly require the most incredibly strenuous exercise that you've ever done. It doesn't require you to beat the crap out of your body like a madman. It doesn't require any of that stuff. You can pretty much take it easy. I mean, you're gonna want to challenge yourself, of course, and you're gonna want to sweat, of course. And I've already gone over how to make it so that something like sweating isn't damaging your health in the long run and causing you to have further health problems. So you're gonna want to do this stuff, and you're gonna want to make yourself work hard. But at the same time, you don't have to be freaking Superman here, and you don't have to think you're King Kong in the exercise world like almost everybody that gets in exercise ends up doing. It's really incredibly annoying, and I know everybody hates dealing with those people where they start becoming a gym person and all they talk about is their workout and all that crap. Everybody hates those people. I hate them as much as you do. And I feel like they probably hate themselves, but somehow they just got to keep talking about it because they're so focused on this idea that somehow exercise is going to bring them this glorious state of nirvana and health that nobody else could get from any other source, when that's just absolute nonsense. Because in most cases, exercising is actually causing serious mental health problems in a lot of people. Not only with obsessions with them, but the fact that you're releasing all these trace minerals through your sweating, like that plays with your hormonal profile in a variety of ways. Your body needs these trace minerals to do all sorts of chemical processes in the body to ensure that you're healthy. So, you're not doing all that stuff, shortening your life, and wasting any brain function that gains that you could be getting from exercise in the first place. So, like, even if you were exercising for your healthier brain or whatever you want to call it, well, at the end of the day, when you're not doing the other stuff I covered, like ensuring that you have healthy intestinal flora and healthy stomach acid and strong stomach acid that can melt the soda can. I'm just making a little joke there, but that kind of thing. So, like, if you're not focused on that stuff and you somehow think you're going to get brain health out of exercising, well, you're barking up the wrong tree. Because it ain't going to happen, buddy. You're going to end up having mental deficiencies and mental... Actually, one of the leading things that exercise leads to in general is things like Alzheimer's, because not only the cholesterol deficiency, but the fact that you're sweating out all these trace minerals, not replacing them, everything about that leads to lack of development of the brain, and that's going to lead to things like Alzheimer's. But I kind of lost where I was going with that. But just your overall mood is going to be a hell of a lot healthier if your body is overall satiated. And as I've gone over endlessly here, pretty much nothing about exercise satiates your body in any way whatsoever. That all comes from outside sources. So this reliance upon exercise for brain health, it's there, certainly. It certainly is there. You can't argue with that whatsoever. But are you also doing all of the other things that will ensure your mental health is there in the first place? Like, a lot of people, they'll purposely go on these incredibly restrictive diets that are incredibly mentally taxing, all for this goal of attaining a certain look for only like a certain small period of time. And that right there is about the surest way to have serious anxiety problems and all sorts of stuff along those lines. There's really no other way to ensure mental health outside of the outside inputs from dietary input into your body. It's just a fool's errand. I understand that you got these preconceived notions in your head that, gotta exercise, raise those endorphins, but most people don't have these other understandings of health like I do, which I've learned over the years because that's all I do is learn. But the gut itself is the second brain. So, like, if you're sitting here trying to tell me that you can have a healthy brain up here, but not ever focus on the brain down here, which this is a brain, we all know it. It's called gut instinct. Well, there's plenty of science backing the fact that the gut itself is not only the immune system, but it's also a second brain. Just Google, the gut is the second brain. You'll find, well, they might have scrubbed Google with some of this stuff by now. They've been changing that stuff up a lot lately. But you could find all sorts of information on the fact that the gut itself is a second brain. The Selene River Press has a number of excellent articles on this. Just Google the words Selene, Selene, River Press, and then gut or gut second brain, things like that. There's all sorts of science to go into this. So, again, if you're listening to some fool that tells you that you're going to have a healthier brain health from exercising and doesn't have anything to say on any of these other subjects that I'm covering, well, you should probably be listening to somebody else because that person does not know what they're talking about. And then another thing about this, getting into the concept of easier exercise, well, most people don't actually even need a gym to work out. Actually, most people in general, even people that are into weightlifting and they're bench pressing all the time and whatnot, they should probably get off that bench and quit for about 6 months and go back and do a whole bunch of physical therapy and corrective exercises and regain their body's bone structure. And then on top of that, you need to be taking things like the glucosamine salts that I spoke of earlier. You gotta be taking all that stuff to build your bone matrix, because every time you're going in the gym, that's why walking is the most ideal exercise you could get, because it has no impact on your joints. Like, every step you take, you're not pounding on your joint. You're not slapping your knees together and wearing down that cartilage in there. And if you aren't taking the things that I mentioned that rebuild all this cartilage in between your knees, like I personally have rebuilt all the cartilage in all of my body. I actually had to quit exercising because of the fact that I had worn down all the cartilage in my body. Then I started taking all this stuff I'm talking about, rebuilt my entire body. Now I don't have any pains whatsoever associated with that. But the average person, they're going to go do, their jump around exercise. I'm going to do my jump squats. I'm going to do my lunges. I'm going to do all that stuff. Well, every dang lunge you do, well, guess what's happening? You're wearing and tearing on that cartilage there. Every time you're doing this stuff, well, you're wearing and tearing every shoulder press. You're wearing and tearing on your shoulder cartilages. And if you're not replacing through diet what you need to rebuild these things, well, exercise is going to go pretty awry for you. And it's not going to be pretty. It's not going to be fun. All the bone aches that everybody, like almost every ex-athlete in the world is talking about, oh man, I was something special back in the day, but now my knees are hurting. All that, oh man, oh Jimbo Bob, oh man, that guy was a stud on the field. And then, barely walk now though. My knees are shot. Snapped my goddamn twig ankle. Couldn't go to state. Oh, you know why that is? Because you didn't give your body the materials it needs to regrow, rebuild, and repair and maintain bone matrix in all of its forms. You could be the same dang athlete you are at 70 that you were at 20 if you consistently give your body what it needs to rebuild and repair bone matrix in all of its forms. If you're listening to somebody that's not telling you and teaching you how to repair and do these things, well, you probably shouldn't be listening to that person, because they don't know what they're talking about and they have no idea what it means to be healthy. They have no idea how the human body works. They know nothing about health and more or less never will, because they clearly have an ego that is blinding them from achieving actual knowledge on the subject of health. And that's generally what you find with people who love to exercise, is the ego is the thing driving all of this. So this is the reason I don't really want to deal with these fucking juice monkey people out here, where they're on juice and they think they're something special, when in reality they haven't done anything, and they still talk like they have. But when they're 70, they're going to be broken down nothing. And when I'm 70, I'm going to still be, running around doing all the same stuff I'm doing now, because I will have maintained the same exact protocol that I have put myself on. And that has allowed me to get to this point where I'm at now. I literally had to retire from exercise when I was about 22. I was 22, my back was shot, my knees were shot, everything on me was shot. Every time I played basketball, I'd be hurting for 3 days after. I'd have to stretch endlessly just to get myself ready. Well, I did all this stuff I'm talking about, and what do you know? I don't really have to do any of that crap anymore. Although I do love to do my physical therapy and all that stuff, because it's just stupid not to do that stuff. So, I'll skip that one, I guess. Alright, so, well, here's a couple of different ways that diet is going to impact your exercise plans that you had to get healthier through exercise, and you're not going to like them. So, here we go. Glyphosate is something that's pretty much found on anything made from corn, wheat flour, soy, and then pretty much anything sold in any restaurant is going to be cooked on a stovetop or a oven, or they're going to have cheap seed oils in the food you're eating from just about any restaurant anywhere. So those also contain glyphosate. Alright, so basically anything made from wheat and corn especially is going to be absolutely covered in glyphosate. Okay, here's what happens when you take in glyphosate. Oh, and the reason I say that is because wheat and corn basically makes up everything you eat. Like, all the buns and all the coatings and all that crap you put, it's all held together by little oils, and then that glyphosate covered crap that you're eating. So, like, everywhere you go, it's all glyphosate. So you don't really have to think about that one too much, outside if you're eating glyphosate, if you're pretty much eating almost anything that is deemed to be normal. Like, if you're eating an Oreo cookie, that thing is covered in glyphosate. And when you eat glyphosate, what happens is there's an amino acid in your body that the body uses to regulate and repair and maintain your bone and joint matrix. Well, that one is called glycine. That amino acid, known as glycine, it actually gets replaced in the body by glyphosate. Glyphosate is like a foreign invader that comes into your body and basically takes over all the places where glycine is supposed to be working properly, and all that. So, like, it's a foreign invader. The body can't use glyphosate. So the more and more that you eat glyphosate, well, the more and more your bone and joint matrix gets worn down, because the body has a foreign invader taking the place of an amino acid within your body. Like, that's absurd on a number of levels, but what it really means in the end is you're going to have malformed bone structure if you're taking in glyphosate. It's impossible not to have malformed bone structure if you're eating glyphosate on a regular basis. And you can see that in all of your complaints about aging and how often you're taking pain relievers like Tylenol and Advil and all that stuff, which I never have. I don't even have a medicine cabinet myself, mostly because I don't eat glyphosate, so my bones don't hurt. My bones used to hurt like hell when I was eating glyphosate, I'll tell you that much. I fucking hated my life growing up. My bones were constantly hurting. And you know why that was? Because I was eating glyphosate for every meal. Alright, here's another one that's going to piss a lot of people off. But anything that you eat seed oil, well, see, the human body isn't exactly designed to dispel oil after you've intaken it. We just can't deal with oil. It's pretty much a common sense thing. Like, where would you find a pool of oil in nature anywhere whatsoever? The body does, and then with modern science, you can easily prove that the body doesn't do well with dispelling seed oils, oil of any kind, even coconut oil. But you especially want to not eat cheap seed oils. You don't want to eat coconut oil or olive oil either, because your body obviously can't really deal with them. Those ones are particularly horrible for you. Okay, so, like, everybody's worried about all this cheap little pudgy fat. I don't have any of it. I'm fucking ripped here. Y'all know I got these babies. Okay, so like most people got to deal with a bunch of fat here and whatnot. A bunch of fat all over the place. A lot of women got to deal with it in the hips and whatnot. Well, that's known as visceral fat, and you know what that's actually from? It's from the storage of oils that your body can't deal with. So, like every time you go and eat anything at all that has vegetable oils in it, anything fried, anything sold at any restaurant in America, it's absolutely riddled with oils. And every time you eat them, well, it takes roughly about 7 years or so for your body to shed them off of you. See, I'm about 10 years into the journey of not doing any of this crap, so I don't really have any of this visceral fat problems on me. And there is no amount of exercise on planet Earth, no matter how fit you are, you will never work off this visceral fat that forms from things like excessive consumption of seed oils in your body. A lot of people do end up somehow getting away with eating a bit of them, but nope, in the end they don't, because they have impacts on your body that you can't see. But most people, almost all people actually, this is part of the common sense thing here. Like, you look around, you see everybody is skinny fat. Well, you know what skinny fat is? That's you eating too many goddamn seed oils and just oil in general, and your body can't get rid of it. There's a little bit more to it than that, but for the most part, if society was not eating all of these oils, it wouldn't be developing fat stores all over the bodies that they can't get rid of despite any amount of exercise whatsoever. The only thing you can do is, let's see here, turn the calendar over about 7 years from now and wait until that day comes. So if you don't do that, you're pretty much, well, in the meantime, while you wait those 7 years out, don't ever eat oil again, and you won't have to deal with visceral fat for the rest of your life. Like, you can even find it in, like, even the prettiest women, even the prettiest men and whatnot. I don't really care what it is. You can always find the impacts of visceral fat on them that they don't want there, that they wish was gone. They don't know how to get rid of it, except for to not eat seed oils, but they haven't been taught that, obviously. Okay, so another one. Don't ever want to eat carbonated beverages of any kind. This is going to have a huge impact on your bone matrix, mostly because carbonated beverages, they neutralize your stomach acid, and they make your stomach acid weak. Every single time that you consume a carbonated beverage, you're weakening your stomach acid, which is invariably leading to poor health because, like I said before, stomach acid is how you the very first stage of digestion of food. If you have weak stomach acid, that's digestion of food, and digestion of everything that goes into your body is of utmost importance. You can't do anything without healthy digestion. So carbonated beverages completely upset this process, and you don't ever want to intake them. That means soda, sparkling water. If it says carbonated water as the first thing on the label, don't drink it, which is pretty much every soft drink known to man. Not quite, of course, but there's tons of them. There's a number of other ways to also weaken your stomach acid, which is wheat flour. Wheat flour weakens stomach acid. Nitrates have a huge impact on digestive health. Nitrates are generally found in cuts of meat like bacon and sausages and things like that. You always got to get those nitrate free. Otherwise, you're going to have impact on your health because you'll have weakened stomach acid. So if you're doing things like those and you're exercising with it, well, yeah, again, you're going to want to listen to somebody else, like me probably. Well, and then the other thing, the huge problem with the carbonated beverages is, you can look this up on your own. Carbonated beverages are widely known to lower bone density. And if you have lower bone density, well, that just means your bones are weak and brittle. So you're going to have exoskeletal problems, that's the wrong word. You're going to have skeletal problems, and you're going to have muscle problems on top of that, because your bones support your muscle system. And if you have low density bones, you have weak bones. You also have weak muscles, because strong muscles rely on strong bones. So all your carbonated beverages that you intake, every single one that you intake, day upon day, day after day, year after year, well, you're causing low bone density. And as you age, you don't want low bone density. That's just like common sense. You're going to have broken hip. That's why people who have broken hips, they're almost always cola drinkers and stuff like that. Almost all health problems relate back to what you put into your body. It doesn't matter how old you are. You could be 120. You break your hip, it's probably because of something you did that caused low bone density problem in your body. Because 120 isn't old. You should be like 180 and not worrying about doing backflips and stuff. maybe not a backflip, but you can do some lunges when you're 180. I guarantee you that. You won't live long enough to see that, but I might. All right, so here's another one. Well, if you have any plans of exercising your way to health and you're still intaking gluten, well, you are on a fool's errand. Because gluten kills your intestinal villi. So everything that goes through your intestines that is responsible for uptake of your nutrients in your blood, well, that's killed by every time you eat gluten. Every single day you go on eating gluten year after year, well, you're completely destroying what is responsible for uptake of nutrients into the blood. And that's a fool's errand if you'd like to be healthy. So again, if you're mixing your exercise with the consumption of gluten, well, you're probably going to have a bad time there. And again, I kind of went over this a little bit, but a truly healthy diet can very easily be made enjoyable and doesn't require very much restriction outside of a core group of foods that you don't ever want to consume. Outside of that, it's fairly easy to have a diet that's not only enjoyable but healthy, and really the only way you're ever going to do this is to know that nothing you ever eat is going to satisfy what you actually need to put into your body to be healthy. So when you recognize that that is true, that opens you up to one, the truth that supplements are the only way to health in the modern world anyways. We can easily get to a place where regenerative farming takes over. We actually have really healthy food to consume, and we don't have to rely upon supplements as such a great and huge crutch like we do now to be healthy. But again, to actually have this miraculous, I don't consider it miraculous because it's easy to me. You just have to basically shed this corruption from society that tells you all these things that are healthy for you are actually not healthy, because they are healthy and they satiate you and they're great for you. Like a big hunk of beef steak, medium rare. Most people will tell you that causes heart disease. Nope. That's going to help you on your exercise journey if you so choose to exercise and still maintain a healthy lifestyle. You can't do one without the other. You can't exercise and expect to be healthy without also having this healthy diet. And you can't have this healthy diet without mixing supplements into it. And if you don't mix both the healthy diet with supplements, you're just not going to be happy overall, and you're going to be a mess, and your whole exercise plan is going to fall apart. So finding this balance of finding a truly healthy diet where you can truly feel as if you're not restricting yourself from much of anything except for what you know to be poison. That's what you got to do. You got to restrict what you know to be poison. And the problem with this is that most of us have been completely misinformed on what is and is not poison, and it leads us to making these fake and phony restrictions upon ourselves that we shouldn't be doing. And it makes things like exercising, mixing with diet, it makes it completely unenjoyable. And that's something we got to fix the entire exercise paradigm, because I fucking hate dealing with people who have these crazy notions of extremism about diet of all sorts, when in reality it's just a leisurely stroll through the park. There's a certain set of rules you got to follow, but at the end of the day, it's a nice leisurely stroll through the park where you're picking whatever the hell you want off the tree and eating whatever the hell you want for the most part. But also, that's because you've done your homework on things like how to restrict or how to stop your body from demanding nutrients in the way that it is so accustomed to doing. Like, every time it demands you eat these stupid junk foods out here that I never eat and never will. Well, that's the same exact thing that's going to cause you to not crave these junk foods. Is the only way you're ever going to pull off this miraculous healthy diet that I speak of, that somehow is satiating and great, and you find it to be tasteful and wonderful in all aspects of taste. Well, you can do both. Like, you can have your cake and eat it too. Like last night, I ate a big piece of cake, I ate 4 muffins, and a piece of a pumpkin bar. So, like, I do stuff like that all the time. I eat cookies practically every day of my life. Not exactly cookies every day. I eat cookies, brownies, all that sort of stuff. Almost every single day. But you know how I get away with it? By following all the rest of this stuff. Like eating only cookies and cakes and stuff that is made with gluten-free flours. And again, here's another problem with that. If you go to the store and you buy the stupid gluten-free stuff, well, that stuff is absolute dog shit. You got to make your own gluten-free stuff. Sorry to tell you that. That kind of sucks about it, but yeah, I learned pretty fast how to bake pretty well, and it's actually pretty fun, and then you get pretty fast at it, so it doesn't take all your time. And that's part of getting to this wonderful mirage of this miraculous diet that you love, but somehow also satiates you, which is key to making exercise a part of a healthy life, because you can't have them both. Like, you can't exercise and not do this stuff and expect to be healthy. You can't do anything and not do everything I'm talking about here and expect to be healthy. It's absolutely fucking absurd. Sick of having to talk about it, but here I am. And I'm never going to stop until the rest of the world figures it out, and I don't have to be talking about it. Alright, so the last part here I'm going to cover, well, this is just a couple of things that I'll just talk about at random for the most part. Well, here's one thing. Dead athletes don't lie. That's where I learned all this from. Google it. Dead athletes don't lie. Theo Ratliff, dead athletes don't lie. Dr. Joel Wallach, dead athletes don't lie. Look it up. Exercise has always been deadly. It's always caused death. It's always caused misery. It's always caused injury. There's been almost nothing from it except for death and injury and terrible things. So this concept that it's good for you, it's always been known to lead to a lower lifespan. Pretty much everybody that exercises lives a short life. They don't live very long. My own dad, I knew he wasn't going to live that long because of all the exercise he did as a child and all the complete lack of attentiveness to his own health that he did not pay him, or that he did pay himself in all the life that he lived after his exercise career was over. And that's pretty much what everybody does. They have this nice exercise career, then they don't exercise for a while, and then it catches up with them, and bam, they're dead when they're like 60. NFL players, they only live to 53 on average. Statistically speaking, they're up until this year, 2022, there was never a pro athlete in history outside of a couple of old Negro League baseball players that ever lived to 100. There's maybe a handful of Negro League baseball players that lived to 100. And then Charlie Trippy this year lived to 100 also. So out of all of history, there's maybe 10 athletes in all of existence, pro athletes who have been paid to be a pro athlete that have lived to age 100. So there's exercise causes death all the time. People have been dropping dead during exercise for a long time. I know this is a big thing now with all the vaccines and whatnot, but those are two different things entirely. But what you do need to know is that exercise is deadly. It's absolutely deadly. Like I just told you about all the crap that makes it deadly. I mean, it just doesn't stop. Another one, our ancestors never had 3 meals a day. This idea that you have to have 3 meals a day and that somehow limiting your caloric intake is bad for you. Well, I kind of went over this, but all your ancestors, they were running on nothing when they were hunting down the antelope or whatever the hell it was, or the bison. Anything they were hunting down, they were running on nothing. It's absurd to think that you need to fuel your body's energy with nutrition in the way that most people do. Like, nutrition certainly does fuel your body's energy in every way, but the way that the average person goes about it, it's just so utterly absurd. Like, what I generally do is I eat nothing like the first 8 hours of almost every single day, except for sources of trace minerals. I eat salt. I do a bunch of really weird things that you would, if you thought of yourself doing them before exercise, you'd be like, yeah, there's no way I could do that. But you've never done it yet, so you wouldn't know. If you got to rely upon 3 meals a day to get energy to get up and do things, you got some issues going on with your health there. So, like, that, and then going above 3 meals, like a lot of exercise people do, that's just absurd. I don't even know where to begin with that crap. Alright, so pretty much your goal, well, this is going to go into a lot of people here. They are always ragging on me, calling me too skinny. All the muscle dummies out there always calling me way too skinny and all that stuff. Well, here's the thing. Your goal with exercise should be to look like somebody who was on the beach in some of those pictures that they show from like 1960s, where they take pictures of people on the beach back then. Well, that's how you should strive to look through exercise. You should not strive to be an oversized, hulking maniac person, because that's just not good for you. The body can't tell the difference between fat or muscle. The same amount of poundage that you have for muscle, well, it's a little bit better for you than fat, but at the same time, the body, it doesn't recognize the difference. You're causing a strain on your body. Any excess muscle that you have on your skeleton, well, it's weighing you down, and it's causing extra wear and tear on your joints, and through the long term, that's not good for you. And also, having excess muscle also signifies that you're not in caloric restriction, because you shouldn't be able to. I mean, you can certainly grow fairly decent sized muscles on a caloric restriction practice, but you should never be getting